Out of all the rivalries Conor's had over the course of his career, his spat with Nate Diaz seems to be going on forever. We can look back and pinpoint the exact point in time it started, but it was probably when Diaz handed Conor his first ever loss. Let's face it, back up till 2016, Conor was the favorite UFC fighter, and the fact that he could back all his trash talking with his skills just added to the admiration we all had for him. Nate shook the MMA world when he defeated McGregor. He stopped the Irishman's 15-fight winning streak. We all thought he was unstoppable. I mean, you guys must remember the 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo, but after dominating the featherweight division for years, he decided to punch too high. He agreed to fight against Diaz in a welterweight bout. That's 2 whole divisions from what he was used to. What's more is that Nate also took the fight on very short notice. Just 11 days. Imagine stepping into the octagon against one of the most accomplished knockout artists on that timeline. The pre-fight press conference was a goldmine. We know both of these guys for their trash talking, and boy, it was a treat to watch. Conor trying to insult Diaz by saying that he was a cholo gangster from the hood who coaches BJJ to children. Nate hit back by saying that McGregor was on steroids. This struck a nerve that threw the Notorious into a tirade of expletives, and he appeared to be more animated during the rest of the press conference. Anyway, the UFC made the fight happen, and Nate ended up submitting the then featherweight champ. The fight didn't look to be too close either, to be honest. I mean, McGregor was used to knocking out featherweights, but he was up against a much bigger guy this time, and not just any guy. It was the freaking Stockton Brawler, the guy who was famous for his iron chin. He ate all of Conor's shots and still looked comfortable. Instead, the Irish mad lad ended up gassing himself out, and as you all must remember, Diaz finished the fight in the second round with a rear naked choke. But this wasn't over. McGregor lost a lot of sleep over this. This was his first ever defeat after all. As you can imagine, he was just itching for a rematch. A few months later, we got McGregor vs Diaz 2, which was also contested at welterweight. But this time, Conor was much better prepared, and the two fighters gave us one of the best fights ever. The 5-round battle went the distance. Conor landed significantly cleaner strikes. Diaz maintained his pressure and control time on the ground. Both of these warriors showed so much heart. You just had to see it to believe it. But before they fought in the octagon, they fought press event leading to the fight with bottles. Yes, you heard it right. During the press conference leading up to their second battle, the two men engaged in a heated argument. Nate Diaz decided to walk off the stage, giving McGregor the middle finger. Literally, after something Conor said, made Diaz throw a bottle of water at the Irishman. And as you guys can guess, McGregor responded in kind. He started hurling bottles and cans across the room toward Nate and his camp. This forced Dana White to cut the presser short as Conor was dragged off the stage. Following the incident, the Nevada State Athletic Commission slapped McGregor with a fine of $150,000, to which the Notorious responded by saying that he gets fined more than these bums get paid. Later, it was revealed that they brought down the fine to $75,000, but they added 50 hours of community service as a punishment. I think Conor offers community service every time he opens his mouth in front of a camera. The whole incident was hilarious, and it certainly helped the UFC in bringing in more pay-per-views. This reminds me of another incident, like how McGregor caused Diaz to walk out of an interview. Before their first fight, both of these guys were on an interview together on CNBC. Yes, together. Who thought that would be a good idea? Apparently, the host Jane Wells did, and she started by saying that the interview was going to be about money. Conor saw his first chance and needled Nate by telling him that he got it from here and that Nate should bounce. He then followed it by asking Diaz to take a coffee break. As hilarious as it sounds right now, it was even funnier when it happened. I mean, it sent Jane into fits of laughter. She tried to diffuse the tension by telling both the fighters to count to 10, and this is when Conor dropped another bomb. He told her that Nate can only count to 5. This was probably the breaking point. Conor was cackling, Jane could hardly contain her laughter, and Nate looked pissed as hell. The host tried steering the conversation as to how much each of them are going to make from the fight, but McGregor was relentless. He told her that the Californian was going to make much more than he ever did before, and it was all thanks to him. He said that he had made more millions in this business than anyone else, and that he wipes his with the 40 grand Nate made in his last fight. After a couple of other questions, and with Conor trying to flirt with Jane Wells, Nate decided he had enough. He walked out. This to and fro of insults continues to this day too, cause Diaz just called McGregor out for failing in his boxing stint. He reminded the fans of how Conor performed terribly against Floyd Mayweather, and that he's going to step away from UFC for a bit to show everyone else how it's done. For those of you who don't know, Nate now a free agent. His contract ran out after his last fight against Tony Ferguson, where he earned a submission victory. Will you guys believe me if I told you that Conor actually praised Diaz when he turned to free agency? How uncharacteristic of the Irishman, right? He even called Nate a bona fide superstar and promised that their trilogy is going to happen. Now, the Stockton Brawler wants to step into other combat sports. Even his manager has confirmed as much. Nate is probably going to fight thrice this year, and it includes boxing. He isn't renewing his contract with the UFC, but it certainly doesn't mean he's retiring. After Nate said that Conor failed during his boxing stint, the Notorious had to hit back. Well, that wasn't unexpected. He demanded respect from his rival, and he reminded Nate that he isn't anything without him. Conor also went on how he would slap him around and that he would have sawed Tony in half. And if you thought this was the end of it, this exchange was followed by another one. Conor's challenge to Nate to slap fight. Yep, Conor wanted to slap fight Nate on Dana White's new TV show, The Power Slap League.
And absolute hammers for slaps. I know recently he's been getting a lot of this kid's reaching to his ass cracking bagger. Oh man, that was a knee wobbler. Now slap the out of him. Two for the show.
But why? Well, the younger Diaz is also known as the Stockton Slapper, and for good reason. He has smacked his opponents across the face in the octagon, and that includes our favorite Irishman as well. Nate responded to the challenge by posting a couple of clips of himself against Conor. He can be seen slapping, choking, and punching McGregor in them. And yes, he actually did that all in the 2 fights they already had. He told the Notorious that he had already beaten him at that game. Conor obviously has to have the last word, and he responded in kind, with his usual threats and insults that we see so often. I personally just love this rivalry. The quality of the trash talk is just pure gold. I really hope that we'll see an end to their trilogy. That's all been about the historic rivalry between these two UFC legends. See you in the next one.